everyone, and welcome to the Be the CEO of Your Life live show. Today, I have a lovely guest here with me, Suzanne Kohlberg. Hi, Suzanne.
Hey.
And I'm very excited because the Be the CEO of Your Life show is all about showing you how you actually can do things quicker and faster and with more ease. The reason why I started this show is because so many people are pulled into different directions because there is always the shiny object syndrome. If you just finish one thing, then there's the next and the next, and there's always a strategy that sounds better than the one you're currently on. So the solution to that is what we unpack in this live show. And today, I love it. Suzanne is going to talk to you about a very special thing that you actually should do. And sounds so easy, but it's not. It's all about saying no. Suzanne, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and let people know what you're all about.
Thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. And I love how you say when you finish this thing, you're looking at the next bright, shiny object, because maybe it's just me, but I don't even finish the first thing. It's kind of like once you've hit buy or once you're in the room, you're like, oh, this isn't it. It's going to be the next thing. So I'm Suzanne Kohlberg. I'm the Nope coach, as in N-O, and I help people to say no without feeling like a bitch, or if salty language isn't your thing, how to say no in a way that feels good. Because so often, so many of us say yes to everybody else, and we invest in the course or the program or the coach. Like we make the commitment, sign the contract, pay the dollars. But then when it comes down to sit and actually do the work, we get distracted by everybody else who needs us. Could you just, mum, could you just, wife, could you just, daughter, could you just? And then we're running around taking care of everybody else, and our passion projects are gathering dust in the sidelines.
Very, very recognizable. Yes, I have quite a few clients and my personal experience as well, that it's so easy to say yes to everyone, but I like the slogan, saying yes to someone else means saying no to you. And that's what you really need to keep in mind when you do say that. And I always say, well, happy for you to say yes to whatever comes up, but make sure it's aligned with your goals. And that's often not the case. So tell us, Suzanne, why do you do what you do?
Is my audio coming through okay? Because yours was a little crackly. No, that's sweet. Okay, maybe it's just my end. Hopefully it's just my end. Why do I do what I do? Because for a long time, I was a doormat, like people pleaser, yes person. And I eventually burnt out. Like, I know that's cliche and everyone seems to be overusing it, but when you constantly are looking after everybody else's needs but your own, there comes to a point where you have nothing left to give. And then I was just kind of, I'd done the things, like, how you tick the boxes that you're supposed to tick, but I didn't feel the way that I was supposed to feel. And I was like, something's missing here. So why I do what I do is passionate about us actually feeling the way that we want to feel, rather than having this externally wonderful looking life, but internally we're just like this, there must be something else here.
I hear you. So you changed things for yourself at first.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that when that's happening, because I really feel that you can then walk the talk. That's very important for me. It's not just something that you picked up, but it's really something that you've lived and learned yourself. So enlighten us. What's your number one tip? I'm not sure what it's saying time. I think it's more about how can you make saying no easier, indeed, without feeling like a bitch, Because saying no in itself is not that easy. I had a client today, and she said, oh, I just have to say no. But, and then there came a whole reason why she couldn't immediately say it. So enlighten us, tell us, how do we do it?
It does sound so easy because it's just 2 letters, 1 syllable. But the thing is, it's the disappointment or fear of letting other people down that's often the thing. But there's this book I love called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And she's like, when you disappoint other people, like disappoint as many other people so you don't have to disappoint yourself. And kind of like when someone's like, could you just, and you're like, yeah, I could, but I don't want to. It's learning to articulate that, and it's a process. The first thing I say, like, it sounds easy, just no. But it's all the mind drama that happens afterward. So it's kind of looking at, if somebody asks you something, really realizing that they can ask someone else. Like, that kind of lets you off the hook a bit, because you're not the only person that can help them. But also, you might be like saying how you are available. So if someone's like, could you do this? And, you know, I always use the example move house, because literally somebody asked me once, could I help them move house at like 6 a.m. the next day? And, you know, I had said yes. As I said, I was a yes person. Now I'd be like, well, actually, I can help you at 10 a.m. on Saturday. And then the people might go, well, I've got the movers coming, or have something else. And it's like really recognizing where is our role, or also too, what could you help them with? So like, I might not be able to help you lift boxes. I'm not particularly that, but I could watch your kids or cook you a meal. So it's like having that negotiation. It doesn't have to be no hard stop. It could be like, okay, I'm available for this, and then negotiating, rather than feeling that we have to, you know, not give in to their demands. I don't, you know, but like do it exactly as asked. So starting to identify, you know, what we are available for. And the number one tip would be, if somebody asks something and you're not sure immediately in the moment, I'll get back to you. Because often we feel the pressure to say yes or no in that moment. And how often do we go, sure? And then later we're like, what? No, I don't want to cook 3 dozen cookies for the school thing. So it's just kind of like, I'll get back to you tomorrow, or, you know, thanks for asking, I'll let you know, or I check my schedule, just to give you that breathing room so you don't feel the pressure to answer in the moment.
I hear you, and I you know, I like that you give some negotiation room, or give something a little less invasive, because you know there's a difference between 6 a.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. on Saturday. There's clearly a difference to me. But what my clients often struggle with, and I'm sure yours as well, is they're very busy already, and then someone asks them to do something which actually they don't really care about. It's not something aligned with their goals. They really just want to scream from the top of their lungs no, and then some other obscenity words, but they don't, so they keep it to themselves, and then often, because of whatever pressure, they feel they need to say yes, meaning they're adding to their workload, doing the worst thing possible, most likely giving that priority as well over their own work, which is actually the priority. So in the end of the day, they add a lot of curse words to the first string already, because now they're like, you know, not doing what I want to do, doing their work first, really hating it, and then end up hating myself because I didn't say no. So what would you say if you really don't want to negotiate? You just don't want to do it because you don't feel like there is any space in your day to do it. How would you negotiate that?
Yes, that's a great question. So Brene Brown says, choose discomfort over resentment. So often if someone's like, could you do this? And you're actually really not wanting to, you don't want to say no because that's uncomfortable. But then you say yes, and later you resent it. Sometimes not even later. Sometimes you say the resentful yes. You're like, sure, while you're like cursing yourself inside. So it's that discomfort of saying no in the moment and disappointing that person, and then realizing that that is a yes to you. So a little tip and trick, and I usually have it here, but I don't at the moment. I have a piece of paper in front of me all the time. And on one side, so anyone listening, you pick up a piece of paper. On one side, you write yes, and on the other side, you write no. And then you realize when you hold up that yes to others, what are you saying to yourself? So like when you're saying with your clients, and my clients too, say I'm planning to write a blog or record a podcast or do something, and someone's like, oh, could you just, like, I'm having a moment. If I say yes to them, I'm saying no to me. So it's kind of like we only have limited capacity and limited time. So it's a no. And then trusting that they're resourced enough to reach out to someone else to get the help they need or to help themselves. Because sometimes also too, and I know for me, sometimes I don't want to record the podcast or do the blog. So I will actually say yes to others to then kind of let myself off the hook and then get all blamey. So it's kind of like being really honest with ourselves. Is it their fault, or is it our way of avoiding doing our own work? And that is next level self-coaching right there.
Yeah. True. That's procrastination in true form, or sometimes self-sabotaging. And you really need to unwrap that. I like it because that's very, very often what happens. Yeah. And I love that board with no, yes, and that's amazing. And I love, Brene Brown's choose discomfort over resentment as well. So thank you so much for sharing. The other thing I was thinking, I was talking to a client last week, and she also said, "Oh, I really want to say no, but I don't know how, because I've already, engaged for a long time with this client. Turns out they're not my ideal client. I shouldn't take them on, but how do I say no now?" And the reason why she didn't want to do it, because her services weren't really aligned to what the client needed. So she just felt bad to drop the client, and also investing already some time there. And it turned out that there were some colleagues in her environment that were actually very suited for what that client needed. So as I asked her, so is there someone else who could do this that you are aware of? And she said, yes, actually they are. And they are specialized in it as well. And with that, she created a win-win situation. Win for her, because she could say no, but also offer an alternative. An alternative she knew was better than doing it herself for many reasons. So then the no became quite easy, because she was like, okay, yeah, they're doing it better anyway, and I don't really want to do it, but that's obviously not something you often have to say out loud. But I do find that it helps when you offer, I can't help you, but have you thought of? And then it kind of takes away, for me personally as well, the hurt of letting someone down. So my discomfort gets a bit less by giving them an alternative.
Yeah, because you're not letting them down in that case. You're in the best service of them. And I think that, as you said, it's a win-win-win, because it's a win for you. You're not overstepping or working outside of your zone of genius. It's a win for the client, because they're getting a service provider who's best fit for them. And then it's also a win for the other service provider that you're referring to, because then they get to work with their own clients. And that's literally that rising tide lifts all ships, because it tends to come back to us, not the tit for tat kind of, well, I've referred someone to you, but
yes.
You're like, this is the person that you go to for this. So it's funny, like people have said to me before, like, I was told Suzanne's the person I come to for boundaries. And I'm like, but then there's other things that, aren't my zone of genius. And the only thing I would say to that is, if you don't know someone, don't make work for yourself to go and research or to go and Google, because that is the person's job. But sometimes, yes, in the moment, they might be hurt or they might be affronted. If you're like, actually, like, clarify from what you're saying, this is what you're after. It's not in, it's not in my scope, is something that I say, or I'm not the best coach for this, and I'd do either of us a disservice. If you know someone, great, or a resource or a book or a podcast or something. But if you don't, then you could give them somewhere, like I suggest somebody who does this. Like, I'm just trying to think, somebody who works in this field who isn't necessarily me. So like, I see a chiropractor, and she was saying some cupping would be good. So she recommended me to see somebody who does cupping. That was brilliant. And I just think, that's, everybody wins.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. And I love that you say, don't do the research yourself if you don't know anyone. That's a good one. Yeah, otherwise there's more work again to be added. So, and since this show is called Be the CEO of Your Life, and it's not just time that, I embody, it's time and champagne being quality of life. Tell me, how do you have your champagne moments? How do you celebrate your life?
I actually do something that I haven't come across anyone else who does it, but, I schedule my rest first. So the CEO of my life is that my rest and my me time comes first, before my work, before my kids, before my partner. And I protect that like a dragon protecting its eggs. And because the thing is, when I start to put work into that, because we all do, like we're behind, whatever that means, and when that is encroached upon, then I notice that I start to get snappy, or I start to get stressed. So it's like the CEO of my life, my rest comes first. And the other thing is, with my business, I deliberately schedule it so I can attend my kids' events, the sports carnival, the speeches, all the things. Because as a child, that was something my parents could never come to. Like, I understand they had to work, but it was really hard for me. So I go to all the stuff, and then sometimes I'm like, what am I even here for? Because it sounds great in theory, but then you're there and it's like, oh my goodness. But making that, because the thing is, why do we do our business? Like they say, the entrepreneurs are the only people who quit a 9 to 5 to only work 80 hours plus a week. So it's like actually making yourself and your passions your priority, because only you can protect that.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's so. I do the same, and I say the same. I was thinking, I gave a workshop last week, which was all about how to strategically plan and save time. And I said, the first thing you need to do is block out the time you need for you, block out your holidays, block out the time with your kids, when you want to go to the hairdresser, get your masseuse, whatever, block it out, and then we're going to look at work. But really, you have to look after yourself. If you don't, you can't pour from an empty cup. So totally in agreement, and I love that you're doing that as well. So Suzanne, we're coming to the end, and I just want to see, is there anything that we haven't talked about right now? Is there anything that you want to add, share us? The last thing.
The last thing I would say is, when you're beginning to say no, it is a process. So sometimes we can beat ourselves up like, oh, I didn't handle that particularly well, or like that was a bit abrupt, or anything like that. So it will become a process. The easiest thing I find is to start with people who don't particularly know you well, because they don't know any other version of you. So new clients, new acquaintances, new friends, practice those boundaries with those people, because they don't know a different version of you. And then when you do start to do it with, close family, your partner, that kind of thing, make sure that you have their full attention. Like, I remember saying to my husband a couple of times, I'm going to do this, while he's playing the Xbox. He's like, yeah, sure. And then later I'm like, excuse me, like, I told you. So sometimes we can, think people hear us, and they really don't. So making sure that, we're on the same page, and not assuming that we're saying, hey, I'm going to do this. They actually even know what it means. So, conversation, dialogue, it sounds so basic, but so often they're the things that we overlook. And then we're at our coach going, they don't listen. And it's like, well, actually, maybe I wasn't clear.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and especially when you're getting to new behavior, so to say, you really need to articulate it loud and clear, and make sure that they hear you loud and clear as well. Yeah. And I heard the other day of someone, and I thought it was quite nice. She said, okay, so I started to put in place boundaries, which I hadn't done for my entire life. And I told everyone in my family and my close friends, I told them, I'm practicing in setting boundaries. I'm practicing. So she was kind of already warning everyone, hey, I don't really know how to do this, but I'm going to say no. And if I'm very abrupt, I apologize up front. But, this is me setting boundaries. And she had some hilarious, very, humorful situations, but because she kind of warned everyone up front, it did work. So
I love that, because we learn by doing. And sometimes we think we'll read all the books about boundaries and we'll watch all the videos and the TED Talks and whatever. The way you actually learn boundaries is by doing, and prefacing by saying, actually, this is how I've been, and now I'm trying something new. It kind of gives you that bit of wiggle room. So I love that.
Yeah, great. Okay, Suzanne, people, where can they reach you if they want to discuss this further with you?
My website is the best, and I see you've got it going along the bottom. I love that so much. SuzanneKohlberg.com. Check out my website. It's got all the resources and stuff there. And I'm really, really passionate about this.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And if you were watching us live, thank you for being with us today. And if you're watching this at a later stage, if you have any queries, reach out to Suzanne, or any queries for me, reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.